I've got your top headlines, trending topics, and what we're working on for you right now ahead of our TV shows, What Matters Most at 6 p.m., Front Row at 7 p.m., and What's Next at 11 p.m. First up, the big story of the day is the historic vote that happened in the House of Representatives last night, where President Donald Trump was officially impeached on 2 charges, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. I'll be bringing in 3 News investigative reporter Mark Naymik to help me break down what that exactly means, what it means to be impeached, and what's going to be happening moving forward. Then we're going to take a look at a brand new Nike commercial that is featuring LeBron James's I Promise School and tell you why Charles Dickens is trending today. Okay, first up, we're going to dive right into the historic impeachment vote last night in the House of Representatives. I have Mark Naymik with me here. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Hey, happy to be here. And there's a lot to talk about on this topic. I think the biggest point to make right now is, what does the impeachment mean? I know my 11-year-old daughter asked me this morning, is the president still in the White House? We can tell you, yes, he is.
Yes, he is.
The impeachment right now stands largely as, a symbolic reprimand that is a large stain on the president's legacy, of course, but it does not remove him from the House or from the White House, because it's the Senate's job. They have the power. They're the exclusive club of 100, and the Constitution gives them that ability to become the court and the jury to decide this issue.
So Trump has become the 3rd president in U.S. history to officially be impeached. Article 1, the abuse of power, passed last night by a vote of 230 yeas, 197 nays, and then 1 Democrat voting present. And then Article 2, obstruction of Congress, passed by a very similar vote, 229 yeas, 198 nays or noes, and then 1 Democrat, again, that same Democrat, voting present. But as Mark said, impeachment does not equal removal from office. There are a lot of steps to happen from here on out. It's much like a crime.
Yeah,
it's much like
except
being
in this
accused
case,
of a crime.
it's like a Law and Order episode that we've seen many times running on cable, because we know how it turns out. I mean, it's highly unlikely. I think Vox.com used the term incredibly unlikely that he would be found guilty of the crimes, because the Republicans control the Senate. And in order to get the 67 votes you need to formally impeach or convict the president, you would have to have 20 Republicans break ranks from the president, and join the Democratic minority, which there's 47. So that's not going to happen. What's interesting, today we're seeing now how the politics, and really this is the optics of the impeachment, are going to play out. Democrats, haven't formally submitted the impeachment over there, and that's in of itself a game, and here's why. They're kind of waiting to see how the Republicans want to play it. If the Republicans fast track it and give the president an acquittal, that's something the president wants, because he can campaign on it. Look, I was acquitted. I mean, this was phony charges. He's been saying that already. But on the flip side, doing a formal vote would require some procedural issues. They'd have to vote on witnesses, and that could put a lot of Republicans in a bad position, because they'd be voting to not bring forward witnesses after they were complaining during the House version of this impeachment trial that they should hear from witnesses. So they're not quite sure where they're going to go. How do you use it most? The president would like to campaign on the issue of being acquitted or not guilty.
Of course.
In this case.
Of course he would. And to back this up, in case you haven't been following this as closely as necessarily we have, because we're covering this every single day, these impeachment charges are related to a phone call that happened on July 25th, where President Trump is accused of pressuring the president of Ukraine in order to get him to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden. He's also accused of withholding military aid from Ukraine that Ukraine needed to fend off Russian aggression. So that's what these charges stem from.
Let's jump off on that Joe Biden point, because I think it's an interesting one. It's one that a lot of pundits and analysts believe, will play now into the next phase of how the politics unfolds. There are polls that suggest that in some ways the impeachment process might be doing more damage to Joe Biden, because it's pulled him into this, and the president, as we know, and his supporters believe that the impeachment will only rally the base, because it's about protecting a president that they've been arguing the Democrats have been trying to dislodge from the White House from the day the Electoral College was final. And so Biden, the damage to him potentially exists going forward. So there's a lot at play, but I think it's worth coming back to something we talked about last week on 3 News, and that is, will the impeachment really play in battleground states like Ohio? How will it play? Does it matter? Most of the people I've talked to and the things you read from the experts, so-called experts, of course, say that they don't think you can switch or flip a state that's red to blue over the impeachment. Maybe it opens the minds of some independent voters to maybe listen more, but the Democrats have a real problem. They have to articulate and campaign on what they stand for more than what we're against. Well, we know we were against the president. That's what the impeachment was about. Republicans think, hey, bring it on, because you've rallied our supporters, and we have, a great stock market. We have lots of jobs in the economy to campaign on. We'll be happy to take that on. So I think that's, the bottom line is both parties basically are downplaying the impeachment. Now that it's official, what happens in the Senate could, really just be more about the politics. I think we're going to go forward without hearing too much about it on the campaign trail.
Looking to what kind of an impact this might have in the 2020 election, we actually put a poll out on WKYC.com/vote now. We asked, does the impeachment of President Trump make you more or less likely to vote in the election? You can vote there now and weigh in. Right now, 88% of respondents say that it makes them more likely to vote in the 2020 election. 12% of respondents say it makes them less likely to vote in the election.
And again, this may play into what we were saying a moment ago, that more likely to vote doesn't mean more likely to vote against.
Right.
It means either I'm really frustrated at what Congress did, the Democratic House did, I'm going out there to cast my vote for a president I believe in, or maybe it moves some people to say, this is crazy, I want to go out there and let's make a change in the White House. But I think it's the former. I think it is going to motivate the base. I think the polls will bear that out over time.
I did get a couple of comments as well on Twitter. I posted the same poll on my Twitter page, _Stephanie Haney. You can always reach out to me there directly. And John Stevens said this doesn't impact him at all. He'll vote either way. And Tom Royer said, I don't think it will move the needle at all either way. I'm afraid it pushed people further into their respective corners, just as you just said, Mark, making it more difficult to compromise on anything. Now it's all about winning, not about showing any common sense. To your point about the political game that we're seeing now, so he has been officially impeached in the House. As you said, now it moves to the Senate. It's their job to conduct the trial once the articles of impeachment are submitted to them. But Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, said last night that she would delay, or she didn't say she would delay, she said she was unclear on when she would send the impeachment articles over, and that she wanted to make sure that she would see a fair Senate trial process before doing so. Her quote was, quote, so far we have not seen anything that looks fair to us, and that the House Democrats would decide as a group when to send those articles of impeachment over.
I think she's going to be waiting a long time if she really thinks it's going to be fair, because we know Senate leadership, Republican leadership, has already said, we are working with the White House. We believe this has been an unfair impeachment trial. They've backed off a bit on that because they do have to follow sort of the procedures laid out in that Constitution. But I think no one is pretending this is going to become some new neutral, trial. It's going to be who can, use it for their best partisan way forward. And I think right now the upper hand, and it's tough to say, still lays, with the Democrats, because they've got the impeachment stain on the president at the moment. Now it's up to the Senate to see if they can take that to their benefit, maybe by saying, look, there was nothing here, we voted to acquit.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had previously said that he didn't plan on calling any witnesses. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer took issue with that. He laid out a whole plan, and he wants to meet with McConnell to discuss that. We'll see what happens there. But this is what Trump tweeted this morning in response to Pelosi not being clear about when the articles of impeachment would be sent to the Senate to begin that process of the trial. Trump tweeted, quote, Pelosi feels her phony impeachment hoax is so pathetic, she's afraid to present it to the Senate, which can set a date and put this whole scam into default if they refuse to show up. The do-nothings are so bad for our country, end quote.
Well, two things. So it shows that, just as we said at the top of this show, that the president continues to be the president. That includes tweeting and campaigning, which he did last night as well, right after the impeachment vote. So, yeah, he's staking out that same claim. I think the viewers and voters will kind of fade as we head into the holiday on this issue, and it's likely obviously not come back till January. And then it's a matter of who wins, how quickly will they get this through, and we'll move on.
There has been some conversation, some people suggesting Pelosi might actually never send the articles of impeachment.
Well, which
to
has the
Senate.
White House and the Senate now saying, all right, how can we, if we choose, to bring this forward so that we can give that acquittal? So this is, again, the political gamesmanship that is now underway because the Democrats got what they wanted, which was the brand of impeachment. Now they want to hold on to that as long as they can.
Well, we definitely didn't expect a vote before the new year, so we will see what happens after everyone resumes from the holiday.
We will be back probably at this table talking about it again in early January.
I imagine we'll be spending lots of time at this table talking about it. And Mark will have more on this for you in the 6 p.m. What Matters Most broadcast. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. All right, moving on to another top story on WKYC.com right now. Nike has a brand new commercial. This is featuring LeBron James's I Promise School, and it has a pretty powerful message. We're going to pull that up, and we are going to play that for you. Right now, my producer Vince is just getting that keyed up, and as soon as he lets me know, we will play that for you so you can see that commercial for yourself. And we've got it for you. We're going to play right now.
We always hear about an athlete's humble beginnings. How they emerge from poverty or tragedy to beat the odds. They're supposed to be the stories of determination that capture the American dream. They're supposed to be stories that let you know these people are special. But you know what would be really special?
A year after opening, LeBron James's I Promise School is showing results. 90% of the children show.
If there were no more humble beginnings,
Really powerful message coming from LeBron James in that message there. After the commercial was released today, LeBron James wrote on Facebook, 17 years ago, Nike took a chance on a kid from Akron. And 17 years later, this has given me the ability to provide opportunities for my 1,400 kids in Akron so that one day, nothing is left to chance. The I Promise School is funded by the LeBron James Family Foundation and Akron City Schools. We do work with the LeBron James Family Foundation here at 3 News. The I Promise School is more than a place for elementary age students to get an education. There's a food pantry there to help families in need. There's also plans for them to provide housing for families in need, transitional housing, while they can set up a long-term plan, a long-term place to set those students up for success. And that commitment to education has proven very successful for the students of the I Promise School. This is according to the New York Times. 90% of the school's 240 third and fourth grade students met or exceeded expectations in math and reading, and that is a rate higher than any other in the Akron City Schools District, so lots of success happening there. LeBron James had previously said recently when he announced that he would be providing housing for families of students at the I Promise School that he quickly realized in focusing on education that if people are focused on where their next meal is coming from, not having a house over their heads, that it becomes pretty difficult to concentrate and put your best foot forward at school. So really a holistic approach at the I Promise School. And the Nike commercial there demonstrates that commitment from LeBron James, doing lots of great work here in the Akron area, even if he has moved to the West Coast and is now playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. No hard feelings there, LeBron. All right. Here is what is trending today. Charles Dickens is trending on Twitter today. We have a little bit of history for you. On this date, December 19th, in 1843, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol was first published, making the classic Christmas tale 176 years old today. It's the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, Bob Cratchit, and Tiny Tim, and the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. Daniel Marley, who is a particular fan of the ghost of Jacob Marley for obvious reasons, He tweeted his celebration of this day, sharing the very first illustration that you see in the original book, and this is credited to John Leach, and you can also see the first page in the original book in his tweet. I just have to share with you this rave review that A Christmas Carol received on Christmas Day, just 6 or 7 days after it first came out in 1843. This was published in the Caledonian Mercury in Scotland. The language is just so beautiful. This was the quote: "We would not by a single quotation or even comment mar the exquisite pleasure which the perusal of this delightful little work must give to all." Now, if that is not high acclaim and foreshadowing of what a classic this tale would turn out to be, then I don't know what is. It was just beautiful language. I had to share that with you. Obviously, this is a lasting classic, lots of versions of it, and there is one playing right now in Playhouse Square. If you want to catch Christmas Carol here live in Cleveland, you can catch that at you can catch that rendition of the Great Lakes Theater. It is playing now through Sunday at the Ohio Theater. You can get those tickets available online. We do have links to that in the story on WKYC.com, which I also dropped in the comments here, so you can go directly to that story. All right, thank you for joining us here on 3 News Now. We appreciate you being a part of our Facebook stream, our YouTube stream, watching us on WKYC.com and in our 3 News app. If you haven't already, make sure you connect with us on each of those platforms. Facebook, you can find us at facebook.com/WKYC.channel3. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/WKYCTV. While you're there, click subscribe and then click the bell on any of our videos so that you get notifications every single time we go live. We can keep this conversation going. You can always reach out to me directly at _Stephanie Haney. We appreciate you being a part of this and joining in with us in the comments. We definitely want to hear from you what you're thinking, stories you'd like us to be talking about, or your thoughts on any of the stories we talked about today. Thanks very much for joining us. This is 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney.